talking that news you ain't heard of, cause you know it's getting buried. Social justice, yeah, the stuff you need to know about. Fucking politics that the corporate news won't cover. You know they don't think that you could see under, but you can now, cause the people we cover, they may not be famous, but their story should be.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog on Monday, May 18th. Obviously, Andy's still not here. Andy, get well soon. Heat and cold. And then maybe if you're feeling well, you can come visit with us on Wednesday morning. But just good morning to everyone. And so shout out to my lovely and talented co-host this morning, Chris. How are you, Chris?
Good morning. How are you? I would love to at some point get on what happened to me last night, but we'll let you finish.
No. Go ahead. This is because the entire theme of our show this morning, Monday morning, is batshit crazy. So go ahead and tell your story.
I got batshit crazy for you. Last night we ordered from what was listed as a 5-star Mexican restaurant, and wow, couldn't believe it. The food was actually great. It took a while to get to us because the first time it was delivered last night, I don't know if you guys know it now, but it was raining really hard in Chicago. And the DoorDasher didn't want to get out of his car. So basically, okay, let's start off first. The food was like over 40 minutes late. So you know it was probably ice cold, right? And he sent me a text that basically said, "I'm sorry, it was raining outside. I didn't want to get wet. Why do you think we ordered food? We don't want to get wet either." Okay, and he took the food and he left it at the wrong building. He just left it in the hall, way on the floor, and then he got in his car and left and sent me a text to let me know, yeah, you're gonna have to get up, leave your apartment, go a couple of buildings in the opposite direction and pick your food up. It's sitting in it. And he thought that was gonna fly. He really thought that was gonna fly.
No. So he got out of, well, he said he got out of his car anyway.
Right.
But that probably didn't happen because he would have left it at a wrong building. So what was he gonna do? Thanks for the dinner you bought me and the tip.
And the tip, yeah. So I called. So right away I called DoorDash, and I used some really colorful language, not anything that was no cursing or anything like that, but more like, you abandoned my food at some random address and you think I'm gonna pay for that? and I talked about this COVID crisis a lot as a reason why it is not safe to take people's food and just place it anywhere you feel like now I'm supposed to trust this. I'm supposed to eat this. No. So DoorDash refunded my money, and then they resent the order. And I sent the driver a text message. I said, if you ever see an order for this address and this phone number, I said, ignore it. Ignore it. Don't ever bring anything to my house, because if I see your phone number pop up on my phone, I am going to call DoorDash and tell them, no, I don't trust you. I don't want you handling my food.
I don't blame you. Okay, all right. So that's we've set the bar at crazy there. Crazy, yeah. Stupid.
Pretty crazy.
Okay.
Pretty crazy. Also too, you know what? I wanted to one of our favorite bands from the 1990s, REM.
Oh.
They've asked many times for the Trump organization to stop using their music. Doing all of his what do you want to call them, rallies? all of his election rallies that he was doing all the way up until I'll get back to that. I was just thinking, I wonder how many of his followers have actually died from this COVID-19 thing. But also, So REM has they made a song, and the video is a parody of Mike Pence and Donald Trump, which I think is going to be brilliant. I have not heard the song yet, but it actually talks about their mishandling of the COVID-19 situation. I think all you kids out there who like the rock and roll, you should get on out there and support REM in their efforts. A lot of you might not know. Some of you millennials might know, but REM used to be pretty dope back in the 90s.
They really did. And
We used to all love them.
yeah, so that's one way to get them to stop sharing your music after you've asked them politely several times, gotten a
Mhm.
lawyer with a cease and desist. Just go ahead and make a song condemning
Yeah.
their behavior. Chances are they
Yeah.
won't use it.
Trump will definitely be on somewhere saying how much he hates REM, and they'll ask him, "Have you heard the REM song yet?" Who? You know?
Fake news, fake news. Just not gonna happen. Okay,
I
so
thought it was very hilarious that he did not know, that he said he didn't know, that Trump, I'm sorry, said he did not know that Obama had ripped him to shreds during these commencement speeches over the weekend. He said he wasn't aware of it.
well, unless it's we've already established here that his primary go-to source is InfoWars, which means that
Yeah.
now I have to go out to InfoWars and just kind of get
That's
a
still a
temperature.
thing.
Yeah, it still is. In fact, a lot of the protests that are coming out now about reopen the states, they're being funded through coordinated, funded through InfoWars, as well as like the Proud Boys are being used and funded by. There was actually an article that linked the funding through non-for-profit organizations, which is kind of ironic. If you're non-for-profit and you're not paying your taxes, but then you're going to go out and protest that property owners, the people who pay their mortgages, should now go risk their own lives while you're not paying taxes. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, so rumor has it, it's coming from anonymous sources in the White House that InfoWars is one of his go-to sources for news now.
Is Alex Jones still part of InfoWars?
Yes, and he's swole too. So we talked about it on a Critical Report with Don Ford, that their model is actually quite smart because they're not in the business of news per se, obviously. But he's making like 25 million a year off of his supplements. So what he's doing is using his news organization as a giant infomercial to sell his supplements. So it's quite lucrative, 25 million, and yeah, he's swole. So
lead-based supplements, muscle power. Yeah. I think he's hilarious. I think Alex Jones is hilarious. I think he should be a character on Saturday Night Live all the time.
Oh, absolutely! You can reprise the who were the boys that the two brothers. We are here to pump you up.
You up. Yeah, Dana Carvey and Nealon. I can't think of his name.
Right. Okay, so I have a batshit crazy, and this one started developing on Thursday.
Yes.
So I live solidly in Trump country. So I'm outside of Chicago. So one of, like, just to give you an example, one of the candidates that we have running for Congress. Now we have a corporate Dem serving right now in Congress, but so his challenger is someone who ran for governor and failed because she herself is so batshit crazy. There was no way. So her name is Jeannie Ives. Shout out to Jeannie, who doesn't watch the show. Yeah, but Jeannie is famous for she hates everybody, absolutely everybody, and she had this one anti-gay, anti-trans ad that was so bad it was hilarious. She had this guy, unshaven, whatever, in a really bad drag outfit with a heavy, deep voice.
Yes.
And this was back when we were so panicked about who's using which restroom, right? And
Right.
here's a little secret: nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. But she cared. So she was going to use that in her ad, and she had this really, really bad actor, and I'll see if I can find it, but he's like, I'm going into the women's restroom. And, well, needless to say, she's so ridiculous, she lost. But she is now running to represent the 6th Congressional District, part of where I live. So she's got a lot of support here. A lot of really hateful people. It's, what's so funny is where I live Chris, you've been here. It's nice. It's pleasant. There's parks.
It
There's
is.
It's
I'm
beautiful.
almost surprised that it's considered Trump country, considering the one time you and I went to 7-Eleven, a couple tried to pick us up.
That did happen. But wait. There was the time we went to lunch at a really nice restaurant. And you remember the welcome wagon that drove by?
Oh yeah, and the speeding car that drove by, and all you hear was the girl
you
singing.
can say it. Go ahead.
He just like went on, and but the thing was, the car was traveling it was traveling so fast you could barely hear it. I don't understand the satisfaction of that.
And it was a beat up, rusted car.
Someone out.
Yeah. So
from a speeding car.
Yeah. So Rachel slurs are our thing. But so this is the area I live in. So needless to say, we have a lot of people here who believe that the pandemic is all a hoax, that their rights are being infringed, because they themselves have never had to deal with any type of hardship whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. That's what's sad. If you've never had to deal with any kind of adversity, just even a little bit of mild inconvenience seems like the heaviest weight in the world to bear.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So one of them whom I'm friends with, and I became friends with her because it was an outreach thing as part of a campaign. Like, take 10 of our progressive policies, Medicare for all, federal jobs guarantee, things like this, and go meet with some of these Tea Party people.
Yeah.
And just have a conversation. So, of course, there were French martinis involved, which is always a good icebreaker. But we had a conversation where it was just sitting across the table. There were 10 women, myself and a friend of mine, and just explained to them what progressive policies actually were. It's not socialism. It's not giving away your money. Just here's what it is. And when you had that conversation, that it's like the light went on. And by the time we left, an hour and a half later, we had all of them convinced on 9 out of 10 policies. They were supporters. So I think that's a lesson in, when you're sitting across the table from somebody, number one, you become real. You're not just a image or statistics or whatever, but for our neighbors on the right, they need to see it, and it has to be part of their own experience. There's a little bit of egocentrism there. So this gets back to the crazy that I was dealing with. They themselves would say, I don't know anybody who's died from this, therefore nobody has died.
Right.
And my response is, well, I was not born and raised here like most of you. I happen to have lived in a couple different places, and I know people. And I personally, like on our team here at Progressive Insider, we have 2 people who had family members die. One of them had 2 uncles pass away. And then when you expand that out from not just family members to who do you know, now we go up to 5 people know somebody who died. And Chris, you were talking about one of your neighbors downstairs.
My neighbor downstairs, he passed away, and he was a guy who was pretty much a recluse. He didn't leave his apartment very much. He had a caregiver who would come in. I want to say she came in nightly, and she would often drop off groceries, cat food, stuff like that. I haven't seen either one of them, but of course I wouldn't see her anymore because he is no longer with us. And when he passed away, there was an entire team of people in his apartment, in those suits, white suits, and they were spraying everything, and I mean they were doing a lot of work in his apartment, which is kind of bad. He had so many cats in his apartment that his floorboards started to stink from cat urine. And about 2 years ago, they ripped up his entire hardwood floor in his apartment and put down a new one. So,
so he was batshit crazy to begin with.
Oh yeah, he was crazy. He was real crazy. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of things. Honestly, if I'm just being honest, that I will not miss about that fella downstairs. Number one was the constant smell of cat pee. And then also right below his apartment was actually directly beneath ours. So every time I would leave out the back way, and I would walk down, and there would always be a pile of bread and seeds and all kinds of stuff. And we live in the city, so rats, right? He's feeding he thought he was feeding the birds and the squirrels, but I mean, come on.
For his cats. So he thought he was giving entertainment to the cats. Really, it's those giant Sumatran rats that you
right. Right. Those rats are, I mean, like sometimes James and I will hang out on the back porch. We're at a high enough level that we don't have to worry about the alley at night. We'll be out there sometimes and just this is when when it was warmer last summer. We just be out there watching the rats zip around in the alley. You don't see them in the daytime, but once the night hits, because there's a McDonald's right down the street. So, their dumpsters and everything are back there, and it's connected to our alley so we can see it. Yeah, they're pretty ravenous out there. Speaking of ravenous, though, Obamagate. Now, this is the thing, right? I mean, like, about it, right? This is something I'm going to say. This is happening. This is what happens when you are so crazy. Speaking of bad shit, yeah. I mean, like, I feel like there's a point where people will be like, "Oh, here we go again. Here we go again." Like when I heard Trump say Obamagate, he tried to put some real theatrical emphasis on it. It made me feel like, oh, here we go, another catchphrase for these Trumpers to run around saying fake news. Now Obamagate. There's other ones too. Like when they talk about the global extremists and all this. So it's so crazy that I feel like somebody should be like, all right, what? Enough of
this one. I have to admit, I have missed this one. So explain to me what Obamagate is. Is this like gay frogs and chemtrails? What is Obamagate?
Now, this is what I was hoping you would ask me that. Because just like last night, even on what I was watching last night on Fox News, the correspondent said, Obamagate, an unfounded and undocumented accusation being floated by President Trump, to which he has still not clarified what Obamagate is. So he's just using a term, hoping it turns into a hashtag. He hasn't even clarified what it is. There's no way any of us can know what's going on in this feckless old man's mind. We don't know. I don't know what Obamagate is, but then again, neither does he.
So it doesn't matter. It could be your own creation at this point.
It could be your own creation. I'm sure his followers can come up with all kinds of stuff. I don't know. Him and Hillary are aliens that love pizza and pedophilia. All that kind of stuff. Anything that is crazy. I mean.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. So, all right, Obamagate. And for those of you watching who have some idea of what Obamagate is, go ahead.
They won't know.
Let us know.
They won't know. It's not a thing. It's just not a thing.
It could be though. It could be.
Oh, he's gonna turn it into a thing. The more reckless and that he ends up looking, because see, now what's happening is we're still going full steam ahead, even though we can see that people are still getting sick. People are still dying. And as Dr. Fauci said, here's what could happen. This is why he's saying Dr. Fauci's trying to play both sides of the court, right? When Dr. Fauci said, if we open up too soon, what we could face is a pandemic that we can no longer control. And see, those sorts of facts to Trump, he'd rather think that they were alternative. I mean, it could happen. It couldn't happen. I think he sees every outcome like the end of a movie. Because when he was like, everything's going to be beautiful, it's going to go away. We only have like a miracle, like magic.
Well, I think what he's doing is trying to sow doubt. And part of the problem is he is in a place of prestige, right? Let's say he gets sick. He's going to be taken care of in a way that the average person isn't. And so this goes back to my story of my neighbors, the batshit crazy. So one of my neighbors decided that he was going to challenge everyone and say that he was offering up to $1,000 for anyone who could prove that COVID was deadlier than the flu. And he was saying the death rate for those that have been tested is less than 1.5%. So of course I'm like, yes, I will take your money. So we were going back and forth, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was playing with him just a little bit and walking through his logic and how he was coming up with this. And of course he cited the Stanford study that has already been shredded because their math and their statistical analysis is so far off that it doesn't even make logical sense. So I just went back and forth with him just a little bit. And of course, we got to the point where I was all sorts of bitches and hoes. And of course he used the C word, which I'm like, okay.
Whoa, he went European on you.
He sure did. Or what was it? Australian. It's a term of endearment in Australia. So
here's a summary from Wikipedia.
so okay, now my Google just went off. Thank you, Google, stop. So anyway, here is the death rate that is posted right now on Trump's CDC. Hey, Google, stop. Thank you.
Sure, canceled.
She's still talking. Okay, so this is from Trump's CDC. His own CDC, the administration that he appointed somebody to, he's working with. These are factual numbers. These are numbers that, okay, so right now in the U.S., total cases, and this gentleman kept going, no, it's the serology reports. But I'm like, okay, so this is exactly the data that they're pulling from. You cannot estimate that somebody has it accurately, and that's where they got in trouble in the Stanford report. So if you look at these numbers in the US right now, confirmed cases 1,467,065. That is across all the United States, including Guam and Puerto Rico. Death rate is 88,709.
Wow.
That is as of May 17th, right? So then I had him run through how he was calculating his numbers. And when I saw him, and I was like, show your work. So I'm like a 5th grade math teacher, show your work. And I was like, well, there it is. You're doing your math wrong. So let's do a review for pre-algebra so everybody else can see how this actually works. So there are tools out there now for those of us who are too old to remember. So I sent him the link to calculator.net. And if you remember the word problems from when you were in school. How
shady of you.
So here's the word problem. 88,000 is what percent of 1,467,000, right? So you plug those numbers in and it gives you these little boxes. You just type the number in, is what percent of, and then you calculate it. So right now today, we have a death rate across the United States of 6.04%. 6 point. So what he was doing was multiplying it by 100 again to get 0.06. I'm like, no, honey, your math is wrong.
Mhm.
And that's okay. But
And
here,
that's okay.
let's
Good
show
thing
you.
we caught it.
Right. And of course, that's when I became all sorts of bitches and hoes. I'm like, no, sweetie, this has been this way. This formula has existed for over 4,000 years.
Right.
Right. It's not going to change for you, and it's not going to change because we have somebody in the White House or what. It is what it is. These are facts, right? You cannot argue with the facts. So now, obviously, in some states it's higher or lower. So, like Michigan is almost at 10%. It's like 9.6% in Michigan, where you had the worst of these Proud Boys and these alt-right militia, the nonprofit guys protesting, and their rate is almost 10%. Here in Illinois, it's like 6.5%. Now,
Right.
we're two states that had the primary where people had to go and vote. And you could see directly after our primary, when our bullshit governors didn't move it back like they should have, we had a spike. So
Right.
Michigan is still dealing with that spike, and now you've got all these people who are, my rights. So there's a couple other things that I want to put up here. So the other myth that I think is really telling is they keep saying, well, it's only old people, old people. So here is this chart here, right in the middle. So if you see this chart, when we look at it, okay, 58% are cases that are over 75. That means 42% are under the age of 75, and you can see the breakdown here. That the flu doesn't look like that.
Do you know what I have thought about also? What do the numbers look like amongst the I would love to see a deep dive into this. There are single people who take people who are sexually active who take this drug called Truvada. Is that it?
I don't know.
Truvada. They take something called Truvada, right? It's distributed largely in the gay community. It stops the spread of HIV, but and a lot of straight people take it too because they want to have sex with whoever they want to have sex with. They don't put condoms, and it's like an HIV morning after pill, and it's extremely effective. But also too, it works on your lungs, and because a lot of people in the beginning when HIV was a huge thing, a lot of people were dying from lack of proper lung function.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't breathe. They were getting pneumonia, and this pill seemed to be like a cure. It like fixed all that. So I would like to see what the numbers look like for people who are currently taking Truvada, something that works on lungs and helps keep the like your breathing and your lung function really good. So I would like to see the numbers on that. Those people who are taking those pills, I wonder if those people are dying at a slower rate because of that. So those people, that's a daily pill. People wake up every morning and have to take that pill.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case, and we'll do some research into it. The part of the problem is, you have all of these home remedies and things that people are relying on, or chloroquine, which now is killing people. So possibly part of the problem that we have, and we're gonna host another AMA session with Dr. Burdett and a few other folks where people can ask this question. The problem is you reference AIDS, and this is in the same virology family. So it's not just the lung disease. It is you have people who are asymptomatic with COVID, and they're actually coming down with liver failure, kidney failure, things like this. So think about streptococcal strep throat. Mm-hmm. If you don't take your antibiotic, it can lay dormant and then come back. One of my professors in college her sister actually died from strep because she
Right.
did not take the antibiotic and eradicate it. So it lay dormant in her heart and then came back in a moment where she caught a cold or something else. And it just came back and killed her. So we saw the same thing with COVID with the little girl in Michigan, the 5-year-old who died from meningitis.
Yeah.
So she died from meningitis because she had such a viral load from COVID. Her body was trying to defend against that, and here comes meningitis, right? So this is where the relationship AIDS-like behavior comes from. But here's one other. This is my absolute supreme of my batshit crazy that I want to share with everybody. So we saw the stats and we saw this, everything's still coming in. We're still dealing with a pandemic and the states are opening up. So I'm waiting to see what Georgia and Florida have to say because Florida stopped reporting their numbers. So I'm pretty sure they're pretty high. So this was another one from my neighbors. And they posted this. They said, I will not be vaccinated, chipped for the coronavirus. Who else is willing to share this? So the reason it's so pixelated on the screen is typically that means somebody has shared it and shared it and shared it and shared it.
Right.
So the image itself is pretty pixelated, but just the implications are, number one, that somehow we're going to put a microchip in a vaccination. That's not how chips work. That's not at all how chips work. If you want to know, there was a company in Italy who was putting chips in their employees who volunteered. And it's like about the size of a grain of rice, and it has to be surgically inserted. So maybe read up on that. And then vaccinations don't include chips. There is no vaccination for coronavirus. And all of the people who did not vaccinate their kids from measles and all of these other things. So let's go back to the little girl who got meningitis, right? There is no vaccine for meningitis that that was available to her. So if your kid is not vaccinated from measles and all of these other things, and they happen to get COVID and they're asymptomatic, you may have a child who dies of one of those things that you haven't chosen to vaccinate them from. So this is part of where we're all in this together. And I think the protest people have what was it, Bo of the Fifth Column, he's a journalist out of Alabama. I think he said it really well. When we're defending our Second Amendment rights, if you actually go out and read the Second Amendment rights, the whole purpose was you can have and bear arms in case there's a threat and you need to be called up to defend it. Not that you just get to walk around with a assault rifle just, because you need one. So here we have a situation where the Second Amendment advocates, of which I am one, are misrepresenting what it actually says about protecting ourselves and each other and doing just the opposite. Right. So if we all run out there, like the woman in was it South Carolina, North Carolina, who's really big on protesting, and it turns out that she's Typhoid Mary. She's got it and she's giving it
to everyone else. Yeah. I love that term. I love that you call it Typhoid Mary. Typhoid Mary, it was a mess. She just went around infecting people, and she had no idea. Well, I think she knew it was her.
At some point, you got to know. Well, it's like, okay, so South Korea, here was a country, an entire country, small, but a country that almost had this beat. They had flattened the curve and they were on the downswing, and then they started to relax their regulations, and you had one guy who went out club hopping and ended up infecting 200 people. So he infected 200, those people could infect another 200, and then now they're back on the upswing again.
Right. I find that really interesting that no matter how many times that's explained to our commander-in-chief, he just doesn't get it. That's how it works. I want him to have it so bad But you know, it's
My theory,
and
and
only because I think that him not being able to breathe and being able to talk would really be a great rest for all of us.
well, okay, I am never gonna wish ill on anyone, but I think you're
I
onto
didn't say
something.
death. I just want him to see how it feels. If he, I feel like if he knew how much something like that can hurt to not be able to breathe, I think he would. I think he might get it. But then again, who knows? I don't think he's ever been really faced with his own mortality.
Maybe
So
not, but I do agree that some of our neighbors on the right, the more conservative, uh, unless it happens to them, like they were saying, I don't personally know anybody who's died from it, therefore, and so you're right. If he got it, would he be more empathetic? And then
you would hope.
right, there's a story about the Boston police officer who swore up and down it was a hoax. It's just none of this is real. Blah, and he went on Facebook Live and was talking about it. And then his father died,
Right.
and then his brother died. And until it happened to him, and he could see it, and it was right there, he was not going to get it at all. And it's unfortunate that we don't have that lack of empathy, or can think outside of what we can see and feel and touch enough. But yet, okay, so yet most of these people are Christians.
I was thinking that maybe Christian meant something different. I don't know, maybe just like I don't mean like I think like to maybe a certain segment of the population might not think Christian is the same thing that you think Christian is, Kerri. like your Christian could be totally different than their Christian.
Oh, make no mistake, it absolutely is. Absolutely is. All right, Chris. So you had a batshit crazy example that you wanted to offer up. You want to talk about this one?
Are we going on to entertainment or Space Force?
You got Fauci and Space Force. Those were your two.
Oh well, the Dr. Fauci thing is what's really what I think is really super interesting, because there is a group of people who are brandishing signs that say "Kill Fauci" and have effigies of Dr. Fauci, basically because he is the one giving the information, saying that, hey, you know what, we don't know, like we still don't know what this is, and this guy is really like pushing us forward, and if we go forward too fast, we could lose control of this pandemic, and it can turn into a real pandemic, you know, like where we can't control it anymore. But the anti stay at home people they don't believe it. They don't think it's a real thing. So, and you know, with their commander in chief saying, you know, Fauci's trying to play both sides of the court, and now he's stopping Fauci from actually talking, which is really great. Which is it's good in this capacity that other news organizations are opening up and say they want to hear what Dr. Fauci has to say. But the fact that these people have gotten so violent that someone saying, hey, look, I just want to protect as many people as possible, and this is being seen as a call to arms for Trumpers. Like,
well, I think it also goes to
he's telling us that we should try and stay safe, and we don't want that. Kill him.
Well, it goes to how the attrition rate in the White House is so high, and
right,
you have like maybe a day or two before, and I forget the doctor, the blonde woman who wears the little kerchief, she's keeping her mouth shut. So
she's just a Trump talking point. I don't like her.
Well, true, but she can't play poker to save her life, because it's hilarious whenever something goes on. You know, she's
yeah, you can see it on her face. she knows that he said something real crazy, but she just can't. But you know what? I say whoever just stands up, you know, in one of these press conferences one day, or rallies, whatever you want to call them. I call them rallies. Anyone who just stands up and says, like the Asian reporter, when she, like, the questions that she asked him, they felt like if she had just gone just that one step further, she would have been like, she was like big news for like a couple of days because of her questioning. But I think if somebody actually ever stood up and just said, man, what the is wrong with you? I think that person would probably go down in history as the greatest reporter of all time. Right next to the two fellas who broke Watergate wide open.
Woodward and Bernstein.
Yeah, Woodward and Bernstein. Yeah, like I feel like that person would be like our Woodward and Bernstein for just for that one question. What the is wrong with you? Why, like?
Okay, so on that note, let's go on to Space Force, because this is big news.
Oh, that's the super duper missile, folks.
Yes, I thought you were joking when you said it because I hadn't seen this yet.
Doesn't seem so ridiculous, doesn't it?
It is literally, this is a quote, the super duper missile. And then the Space Force flag. Can you see this flag? This is something out of Star Trek. Literally.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Yeah,
it is a pretty blue, though. I do like the blue.
It is a blue, and I think I'm going to go back to my Star Trek movie archive. I believe that is the insignia. The actual Star Trek insignia? With the globe and then the circular thing. Yeah, I think that was
It does look like it. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, I think that was on when you see the conference rooms and things like this of the training facility. I think that is the logo. So are we actually being trolled?
What's going to become of NASA is Space Force like a sidecar now? Or is NASA the sidecar? What's going on? Is Space Force?
It's completely separate, isn't it? A brand new branch of the military. And I haven't got a clue what it does. Nobody really does. We just know that
recruiting people for Space Force.
Well, they have uniforms, and we just gave them $15 billion. So I don't know.
Space Force.
I don't know if anyone is now recruiting for Space Force. Can you let us know if there are recruits? If you could, when you go to enlist, and you can check a box for Space Force, just send us a note. Let us know, because I can't find anything.
I have a feeling the Space Force will consist of these guys who run around, the very, very overweight fellas who run around in the middle of the jungle, in the woods, not the jungle, in the woods, like, Upper, Wisconsin, and places like that, in Michigan, and pretend to be militiamen, like these really, like the most ridiculous sort of people.
With their face paint and a Hodge ghillie suit kind of thing, just yeah. Don't forget your drone.
And I do believe that they will probably, because of Donald Trump's penchant for fast food, I have a feeling the Space Force will probably be like every meal those guys eat will be from McDonald's and KFC. So we don't really have to worry about them because they won't be able to go into space. They'll be too heavy. They'll be too heavy to even go.
Yeah, but they still haven't defined what this is. Is it cybersecurity? Is it? I have no idea. Are they actually going into space? Because then you're weightless, so your size doesn't matter. Except
here's the thing though. That's a good point you make. There's a lot of weight though. Now here's I think that Trump is like, all these things will be models of ideas that Trump has. See, Space Force will never get off the ground. Literally. Like, it'll never get off the ground because it's not a real thing. And he's only going to give you ideas. Like, you'll see the flag, you'll see a uniform, and this is what it's going to be. And it's going to hype his, his base up to think that it's such a thing. Space Force, yeah, and they're gonna be walking around with the T-shirts, Space Force on back, and
so it's just about the merchandising.
It's that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a whole thing. Obamagate. There'll be T-shirts that'll say Obamagate. It'll be all. These are all ideas. See, Trump is known to be an idea guy. He comes up with these things, But then, as we know from all of his failed businesses, that he comes up with ideas, but he never sees them through, and then a lot of people end up getting fucked over, and then there are lawsuits.
There are, and yeah. So here's my theory. Since we're gonna do conspiracy theories, and this is my entry into batshit. Elon Musk is a buddy, and he was on that little business task force, and then even Elon went crazy. Elon went, "You're batshit crazy," and left.
Yeah.
But Elon still got his little space thing going on, which. Okay, so props to him. This is really hard science, and you're going to have far more failures than you will successes. But $15 billion would go a long way towards, maybe the next rocket launch. So
a lot of suits.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that maybe Space Force is yet another handoff of public money to a private enterprise.
Right.
I think
so that money could end up in a lot of different places, couldn't it? Yeah. I mean, honestly, here's the thing that I worry about. Like sometimes Trump is pushing so hard for all these billions of dollars, and we still don't I don't trust the fact that a lot of this money won't find its way into different Trump private organizations.
Oh, it already has. If you look at the CARES Act and what happened before, and this was, again, I was arguing with my Trumper neighbors. I'm like, where did the 12 trillion with a T trillion come from to give to Wall Street and banks? I don't see a tax hike, and I didn't see a budget cut, and I didn't see anything that would support giving this money. Where did that money come from? And none of them could answer it.
Right.
None of them. So a majority of that money we've already seen from the CARES Act and the PPP grant for small businesses went to privately traded companies. So these are hedge funds managers. These are the donors to Republicans and Democrats. We saw a lot of this money go to banks like Chase and Fifth Third and all of these banks that hold your mortgage. So they have already been paid for your mortgage payment. So when we talked about a rent strike or a moratorium forgiveness, the only states that has done that is California. No one else has done it. So when I pay my mortgage payment, Chase got 2 payments. They got the one from the federal government, and then they got my personal. So all of these things are happening right now, and these are not conspiracy. These are out there, and if turn on C-SPAN, you can watch it happen live. These things are happening, but they cannot address where did this money come from?
Right.
Because to pay for, 12 trillion in a bailout for Wall Street, and we still have people saying, well, the economy is great because look at the stock market. These two things are not equal. Not at all. And if we didn't learn a lesson from 2007 and 2008 when your 401k lost 40% of its value, but Wall Street was fine, I'm not sure how much more clear we can make it. And for people who are still saying that MMT, and I don't care what you want to call it, is not true, it's a fallacy, that's like saying gravity doesn't exist. We just saw it happen. Mnuchin did it. He pulled congressmen into a conference room in Capitol Hill one by one and explained it to them. And then they went ahead and made $1 trillion per day available to Wall Street banks. So you can argue with me all you want. The evidence is in front of you. It's just you refuse to believe it. So one of the things, all right, we're coming up on the top of the hour, so I do have some housekeeping to do. One of the things that we are doing is we're putting together a panel specifically on macroeconomics here. So we have a number of guests, and then we had a candidate who was a Wall Street regulator. And we're going to bring her back for one of those panels so that she can explain it to people
Wow.
why things work the way they do. And we want to talk about how stocks really work. And when you buy stock, are you actually buying ownership of the company? No, you're not. You're not. You're buying a piece of paper. That's all you're doing. So it's like a casino roulette wheel kind of thing. You are not actually buying a brick of IBM.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. The other thing we're doing is another AMA, which is Ask Me Anything panel with Dr. Dylan Burdett. He's a virologist who is actively working on COVID, as well as some medical doctors and other folks who will give you the right information, credible information based on facts, not conspiracy. So you can ask them these things, and we'll go through some of the myths and some of the things that you want to see. We've already done a couple of these. These are on our website, on our Facebook page. Go check those out, but one of those is coming up. And then the big one, this week on Wednesday, we have one of our own, Rome Bethia, who does Rome's Rebellion. You would have seen him from Labor for Bernie ads, and he was an advocate for activists and getting out the vote in Detroit, as well as many areas around the country. He lost 2 uncles to COVID, so now he also has an aunt who is one of those frontline workers. When you go to the store and you want to wrestle over toilet paper and whatever else, she has to be there at work or she will lose her job and not get access to unemployment. So she is now a widower who is on the front line, yet we have all of these militia groups who are trying to put her at more risk. So Rome has organized a counter protest with Anthony Clark. Anthony Clark here in Chicago is he's a well-known activist, somebody who's organized in the community. He's run for office. So these 2 gentlemen are teaming up together because, in particular, the minority populations are being harder hit than even, out where I'm at in the suburbs. And it is my belief, this to me is the Trump gate of the century. When they found out that COVID was disproportionately affecting brown and black people and minority communities, they backed off.
Right.
Because they want this to be a genocide.
But here's what's interesting. It's like, okay, those things can happen. Those things have happened in the black and brown community. A lot of but I want to say that the information that was getting out to the black and brown community is what fueled this sort of higher rate of infection, right? At the very beginning of this, at the very offset of this thing, a lot of people were saying, oh, this disease is not really affecting black and brown people as much. Why? Because black and brown people weren't being tested. So we weren't seeing those numbers. This is the idiocracy that we are living in anyway with Trump. The idea that if no one is being tested, then there's no COVID-19. Like, okay, we don't have these numbers, so no, it doesn't exist. So in the black community and the brown community, a lot of those people, I don't want to remove myself from those people, but like James and I, we have regular doctors that we go see, so that's not really something that, and James works in an atmosphere where he gets tested a lot for this COVID-19 weekly, isn't it? It's like a weekly thing. Every 2 weeks he's getting tested for this thing. Okay, so because we are part of that black and brown community, but from the beginning of this, I was coming home from work telling James, this is happening. Like I'm like seeing this happen with the students and everything. Oh, speaking of that, I go back to work tomorrow, but not in real time. It's gonna be like this. We're gonna have some meetings tomorrow, and then I think I'll probably be assigned a class.
Okay, well, back to work for you. But back
No
to
more
work
unemployment for me.
Right,
I
well,
got it for like exactly 2 weeks.
I
3 weeks, I think. Yeah.
nobody is disputing the safety of it, right? So, uh, supporting local businesses, that is done in several different ways. Number one, we need to get Congress focused on small businesses, not Wall Street, because the reality is, although Pepsi and Walmart can afford to advertise, 98% of the economic engine of this country is small business who can't
Right.
splash the media with advertising. So that is where the public money should be invested, in the small businesses. And right now we have the House Committee for Small Business saying that there are 4 million applications for assistance that haven't even been touched yet. So that's where the focus needs to go. And then
Right.
if we are going to return to work, we can do so safely. You had Twitter say everybody can continue working from home indefinitely. So those are the things that we are not disputing. But for these people who are putting the blame on your governor, you don't understand how money works.
Right.
And what is actually going on. So I would hope that people would start to understand that. So one of the big things that's coming up this week, this Wednesday, Rome and Anthony are going to hold a counter protest safely with social distancing, masks, things like this, in Lansing, Michigan at the Capitol. So we saw there that some of the representatives had to be escorted by armed volunteers to get them to their cars. So what they are doing is pushing back on the single voice that we hear from the Proud Boys and the alt-right, and they want to stand up and say, no, we are here defending the people who can least afford it, the people who are out there working the front lines, the nurses, the doctors, the people working at your grocery store who cannot afford $13,000 to get treated should they need it from getting sick from COVID. So those are the stories that are not being told. We're just seeing the death rate. If you survive it, there's an exponential cost if you have to be hospitalized.
Right.
There's also a cost if you recover and then find out you have liver disease, kidney disease, chronic COPD, and all of these other things, blood clots. These are expensive. And I'm going to tell you that the cost of a blood thinner, if you are suddenly faced with a clotting disorder like DVTs, $500 a month is what that costs. So while all these people are saying, open the states, they don't understand how federal spending works. And they're trying to push the burden onto the people who can least afford it. So if you are in and around Lansing, or you can get there and you can safely support Rome and Anthony in this, please do so. If you can't, then the event is on our Facebook page, it's on our Twitter, it's on our website. Share it. We need to get more of the counter information out there and let people know that these alt-right people, we can see it's an AstroTurf campaign on their end. They're being funded by groups tied to Betsy DeVos and other things, and we can see that very clearly. In fact, it came out of the Guardian from the UK that did the investigation. This stuff is not hard to put together. So please pay attention, support these guys, and then we have some more programs coming up this afternoon and this evening, and as always, usually 8 o'clock Eastern, you'll start to see some of the interviews and commentary come out, but look for more information on this channel. So, Chris, any parting words? It's now time to get out of here.
Any parting words? No, but I do. Well, yeah, I do want to say this. Everyone, you know what? Follow the directives of someone who you feel like is very smart. We feel, or at least my coalition over here, we feel like Dr. Faucci is a very smart man. And I don't feel like he's playing both sides of the coin. I kind of feel like he is giving us scenarios of how things could go if we just let things run rampant. Those of you who want to get out there and keep on living your life the way it was, and in 2 weeks to a month, we'll find out whether or not you made a mistake. And if you have made a mistake, the rest of us, we should just stay put. we should stay put until further notice. I mean, I miss hanging out with you, Kerri. I miss James and I being able to come up to the house and just chill the way we do and enjoy some of your good cooking and all that sort of stuff. That stuff has 100% had to stop because of this. So,
Yeah, we'll get there. It's just patience, and I think that's kind of the thing that we want everyone to understand. It's just be patient. We haven't, our generation has never dealt with this. Generation before us didn't deal with this. So as we get out of here, I've got one more chart I want to put up. So to Chris's point, this is a chart to compare what we are actually dealing with based on historical events. So this shows, like, we've already surpassed deaths from the Vietnam War, the Korean War.
Right, yeah. But that was almost like 40,000 deaths ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the Vietnam War was 58,000. The Korean War was 36,000. Post 9/11, the war on terror, we lost 7,000. From September 11th, remember, never forget.
Never forget.
That was about 3,000 people. The Revolutionary War was 4,000 people. COVID currently, well, this number is old now. It says
it's old now. We're up to 90 or just a bit over right now.
Right. So the low estimate with precautions was 100,000. We're gonna blow right past that.
We're gonna blow that away. America.
Yeah, the flu pandemic of 1957. We're gonna pass that. World War I, we're gonna pass that. World War II is what we're tracking towards now, and so the total deaths for enlisted, thinking about storming the beach in Normandy, Iwo Jima, and all of that is 255,000. So we are on track. For
honestly, I think if we just keep going, with the way Trump is down the road he's sending us, I think we might actually be able to match some Auschwitz numbers. What do you think? I think we'll really get up there.
Which brings up a good point. When we condemn those people who were orchestrating Auschwitz, what does that say about us?
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Right. So we have become that thing.
I mean, I was absolutely being facetious, but still.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I don't think it doesn't seem beyond the pale at this point, does it? It doesn't seem like something that could not happen.
And that is a sad commentary on us. So that I think summarizes the batshit crazy that we have become as a nation. So on that note, we're gonna get out of here. So hey, have a good day, everybody. Good start to your week, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday. So thank you very much.
Hey, you want to see my impersonation of those Facebook cartoon memes?
Oh, there you go. All right, thanks, Chris. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This is Progressive Insider.
Yeah. Progressive Insider, you know they wiser. This that new media company covering everything. I'm talking that news you ain't heard of, cause you know